What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Banter at the Bank. I am Brandon alongside Drew,
So
and we are recording here on Tuesday. What's today's date? The 26th, March 26th, opening day. 2 days away, Drew.
yes,
How you
sir.
feeling?
Oh, I'm hype. I could not be any more hype. Strongly considering if I leave work 2 hours early so I can come home and watch the Phillies at 3 o'clock.
No, I'm really upset because where I was sitting in my office was right underneath the TV that we have there. So I used to always watch the Phillies games and not even have to leave. And now that my seat got moved, and so I'm gonna have to do the same thing. But I did see it's supposed to rain on Thursday, so it actually might be on Friday, which would
Yeah,
kind of be nice. But
yeah. I have off of work anyway, so I wouldn't have to worry about
exactly,
that. Yep.
yeah. But I mean, 60 degrees today and sunny. I'm just like, oh man, it's baseball. It's baseball season.
I
Let's go.
know.
Let's go.
I was sitting at work and my plan was to go to the gym after work, and I'm like, I can't even do that. I'm like, I have to go play disc golf because I have to get out and I have to get moving around.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's the best. It really is
Yeah,
the best. It's crazy. Like they're still playing spring training games. I mean, well, not really anymore, but like the other day I was just thinking like that's just it. Spring training is long. Like they need to.
I
Like,
know.
it's
It
it's
like it makes sense in my mind because you want to make sure everyone's stretched out, but at the same time, I don't know. Pitchers and catchers can come when they need to get stretched out, and everyone else could come a month later.
mhm,
But yeah, I don't know if it works.
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, we have a good show up ahead. Some roster moves this week that went down that we're definitely going to talk about. Spring games wrapping up. Phillies record wise didn't have the best, but hey, it's just spring training. And then our Phillies by the numbers segment, which was really fun last time. I'm excited to keep getting into it with good old Grammy Hammer. Our season predictions and then our preview rounded out by some prospect talk where we'll highlight a prospect that we're both excited about. So, Drew, Jake Cave to Colorado.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I was really surprised when I saw that, but hey, I mean, you gotta clear a roster spot. Cave doesn't have any options left. So if it really came down between him and Pache, I don't blame them for going with Pache just because he's younger and about the same offensive production. They are missing now another left-handed outfield bat. So I did hear some speculation of them looking to be active on the, I don't want to call it a waiver wire because it really isn't waiver wire. It's all the veterans that signed minor league deals just to get to spring camp now opting out of them because they have better opportunities to sign, major league deals. So to keep an eye on that. I did look some things up, but not too many of the people really caught my eye. But yeah, there's some people out there, so we'll have to see what the Phillies decide to do.
Yeah, I was I feel like they just love Jake Cave, so I really thought that Pache was going to be the roster casualty there because it sounded like Rojas was making the opening day roster no matter what. Um, so I was just relieved because I mean, yeah, left-handed bat off the bench is important, but I'm sure there's plenty of guys out there, and I mean, Dombrowski's done a good job at like finding, you know, younger, kind of under the radar guys that come and perform, work with Kevin Long. So I'm really not worried about it. I think at that point it's a necessity. And we still have, Derek Hall in the minors, and there's a lot of moves to be made. So, but yeah, I mean, did you see the video of him being interviewed in Colorado at all? Did you
No,
see
I
that
didn't
today?
see that.
He looked upset, but
Do you blame him
honestly,
though? He went from a potential World Series team to the Rockies.
yeah, I mean, he gets to play every. I mean, only maybe. I'm assuming he gets to play every day. The Rockies are pretty horrible.
I'm I read it. I read an article somewhere that he's still going to be just kind of a veteran leader off the bench,
Dang. So
which is
yeah,
rough. But
I'd be really mad too
yeah,
for the Rockies. Honestly though, I will miss him. I do like going to Iron Pig games, and he was on a tear last year.
he was
So
hitting like 400 almost at one point. I was like, why is this guy still in AAA? I'm like, come on,
yeah,
we need. And then he comes up and hits 220. I'm like, what in the world?
yeah. Yeah, I saw a tweet today that was like, he's the Barry Bonds of AAA. So I thought that was funny because it was. I mean, I think I went to like 2 games when he was down there, and he was mashing. It was, but yeah, so long, Jay Cave. Wish him the best of luck. But
hmm
glad Pache wasn't the one that was getting the boot there.
Yeah.
So I mean, leading into that, it looks like Rojas is going to be the opening day center fielder. I mean, maybe not, because in the last spring training game they had Marsh in center and Merrifield in left, which
hmm
is my personal preference. But yeah, I mean, it looks like Rojas is going to get a lot of games, a lot of at bats, going to be their everyday guy. Just curious your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm torn on it because I can see this going two ways. I can see them being eager to get him up, thinking that I did hear someone it's on WIP, and I'm pretty sure it was Dombro saying, someone quoting Dombro saying that the quality, like, yes, if we sent Rojas to AAA, he would get more at bats and he'd be out of the limelight. But at the same time, the quality of pitching at AAA is nothing compared to what he's going to face at the major league level. And so I can see that going two ways. I can see that saying, like, he's going to stay at the MLB level, but now he's facing MLB pitching all the time and he's overmatched and his confidence just goes down the toilet. But at the same time, if he has I don't know what his mental state is like as a player. I don't know if he's a tough, grind it through guy or what kind of a guy he is. But if his mental fortitude is there and he can kind of push through and know that, hey, I'm working through things, it's going to click eventually. Right now, I'm just here for my defense, and any offense I can provide is a bonus. Then I think he's going to be fine. But if he does, the season can be tiring both physically and mentally. And if he just kind of gets tired down of, I'm not hitting, I'm letting the team down, et cetera, then it would have probably been better if he started at AAA, which is the second part I was going to get to. If you send him to AAA, it could also kill his confidence because it's like, all right, I couldn't even hit to make the MLB team this year. And I was here through the playoff run and everything last year. So I feel like it's a weird, not necessarily a win-win or a lose-lose or a win-lose or lose-win. It's just I don't know.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And like, I saw Dombrowski said today as well, like the team's only going to go as far as our top 7 hitters take us. So I mean, you know, what much more of an impact, is that to have another stud hitter in the 9 hole when, defense means a lot. And I think defense is overlooked because the metrics aren't there like hitting is. But I mean, Rojas made some incredible plays. I actually dug into it a little bit, just to like see how good Rojas is. So, um, I mean, defensive run saved is a pretty good metric just because, you're saving runs defensively. That's like kind of the whole point of
Yeah.
defense. So he had 15 defensive runs saved in 59 games, and that's 392 innings. So for context, I looked up the NL and AL Gold Glove winners for center field.
hmm
So Brenton Doyle was the National League Gold Glove winner. He had 19 defensive runs saved in 126 games.
Hmm.
So Rojas had what, 40% the amount of innings that Doyle had and had
hmm
15. So I mean, if Rojas plays 120 games, he's having 30 defensive runs saved, which is like
Yeah.
would be number one in baseball by a lot. So I
hmm
mean, he really is like a plus elite defender.
Yeah.
And like Kevin Kiermaier too, who's like, known to not hit much, but it's just valuable because of his center field play.
hmm
Had 18 defensive run saves in 127 games. So I mean, I'm glad. It's just weird that the Phillies are valuing defense when like
I
we had
know.
Rhys Hoskins out there, a couple years ago, it seemed
I
like,
know.
and then Schwarber. But I mean, hey, I mean, all the bad center field play we've seen over the years. I mean, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Last episode in my take, I was a little strong on not having him out there simply just because I am worried that Merrifield will take at bats from Marsh and Stott. When I think those guys are like really need to play, 140
Yeah.
games barring injury.
Yep.
Um, because they're going to be the cornerstone of our franchise in a couple of years here. I mean,
Yeah.
can't look too far ahead when we're in a World Series window, but they're not young kids anymore. They're getting to be
Exactly.
20, 26, 27. So
Yep. Yeah, I mean, Stott's got a kid now, so
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So
yeah,
yep.
but that is a fear though that they're. I don't want to say that they're stupid for doing it because they have their reasons, but
Hmm.
I really feel like Stott and Marsh have both proved that they deserve everyday at bats, that they deserve to be playing every day. And you put Marsh in left field, and he becomes probably the best defensive left fielder in baseball. So I love Whit Merrifield, and I agree to the point that he shouldn't be on the bench because he's still hitting like he should be leading off almost. Not maybe not necessarily, but he's still hitting like he should be an everyday player. So it's a it's a good situation. It's a good bad situation. So we'll have to see how they handle it. But if we're being this nitpicky about something like this, the fact that we're concerned that a bench guy is going to get too much playing time because he's so good, I feel like that's a good situation to be in. So, um, as long as Harper can stay healthy, I feel like the Merrifield thing is also a good backup for a lot of things. As if
Hmm.
something happens, like, and I pray that nothing happens to Harper, knock on wood here, but um if Bohm has to slide over to first, he does, and then you just kind of either you shift Stott to third, which I know he's done, but he hasn't played since the other year when supposedly him and Bohm were battling for the third base job, which was ludicrous. And then you have Merrifield play second, or you have Merrifield play third. It's a good backup in case something were to happen, but you also hate to see a guy like Merrifield sitting on the bench not doing anything. So
Yeah. No, you're totally right. And I mean, Marsh has had some injury issues, and there's there. So yeah, he's definitely. Who is that? That guy who came up. He played first base a little bit in outfield. He's number 30. Ellis, Drew Ellis. Is that his name? He was up on the Phillies for a little while last year. I don't know. I digress.
Weston
But
Wilson.
no, not Weston
Because
Wilson.
Weston Wilson got sent to AAA too. It was probably Giroux.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like we're basically kind of replacing him,
Yeah.
and for Merrifield, which is
Hmm. Hey, if Weston
great
Wilson
problem
has
to
to
have.
come up too, that's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, yeah, I'm a big Weston Wilson fan. I hope he gets
Yeah.
a good shot. Um, but yeah, Matt Strahm,
Yes,
1 year
sir.
extension.
Yep. So yeah, Matty Strahm there, Pastrami himself, signed a 1 year extension with a vesting club option. So the extension is worth 7.5 million through next season. Now there's a vesting club option for 2026 for one and a or not 1.5, geez, for 7.5 million, which is the same as 2025. Now, for those of you who don't know, a vesting club option is kind of like an option, but in my mind, I see it more as a incentive based thing. So if Strahm pitches 60 innings, not this year, but next year in 2025, 2026 becomes a guaranteed 1 year, $7.5 million deal. So the way it works is his extension is for 1 year, 7.5 million with a vesting club option for the following season. So he gets paid 7.5 million next year in 2025. If he pitches 60 innings next year in 2025, he essentially gets another 1 year, $7.5 million deal for 2026. Which, if Strom's pitching 60 innings next year, you better believe I want him on the team in 2026. So I don't see it as a bad deal. I feel like it's a win-win. You get Strahm at I think that's exactly the same price we signed him at last year. So you get him at the same price. I was looking at stats on Strahm. He had like a 4 ERA when he was in the rotation, and then as soon as he went to the bullpen, he had like a sub 2.5 ERA, I'm pretty sure, the rest of the season. He was ridiculous. So I have no issues with it. This deal has worked out tremendously. Poor Red Sox. So that's all I can say.
Yeah, yeah, he's making 7.5 million this year and last year too. So it's like just I feel like he's kind of underpaid for how good he was. Like a stud lefty with a under 2.5 ERA out of the bullpen. I mean,
Yeah.
little hometown discount maybe, but yeah,
Yeah.
I love Strahm. It's so nice. Like we'll get to this too, but it's just so nice having so many guys we can just rely on. And
Yeah.
even if they do have a bad outing and maybe cough up a lead or go, it's like it's not gonna drag on and it's
Hmm.
not gonna be like back in
They're
the
all really mentally tough to the point where like one game's not gonna ruin the rest of the week or the rest of the series or the rest of the month for them. They're gonna do what they do one game. If they mess up, Strahm just yells at himself during the game and gets over it by the next pitch. But um, they just fight through and they let one day go and come out the next day kind of like, all right, yesterday happened. Today we're gonna pitch like you've never seen me pitch before in a good way. So yeah, I love our bullpen. I saw MLB put out a thing on Instagram where they're ranking bullpens. Nothing against our bullpen. Somehow they ranked us number one. I don't understand it. I'm not going to complain. It's probably clickbait stuff, but we're definitely top 10. But number one ahead of, I don't know, even like the Astros bullpen, I find hard to believe, especially since the Astros got Josh Hader now. So, yeah.
yeah. I feel like those dominant bullpens are like not really as prevalent right now. Like if that makes sense. Like I
Hmm.
feel like I mean I think one's a little high, sure, but I mean they were really good. I mean really barring like Kimbrel in the playoffs. I mean they were solid, consistent all year.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, hey, if we're number one, we're number one. I'll take it.
Yeah. Exactly. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, like, there's not really, like, how many years ago was it now? Was it really like 6 years ago when the Yankees bullpen was essentially just three or four closers that for some reason didn't like demand a lot of money? And so you had like Chapman and Andrew
Is it
Miller
mm,
and there's another dude. I want to say his last name
was
was
it Zach
Green.
Britton?
No, he was on
Uh,
the Orioles at that point. I want to say his last name was Green, but I don't know. They had like three or four guys that definitely could have been like the go-to closer on another team,
mhm.
but they just stayed in New York and their bullpen was unbelievable. Now, they didn't do anything with it, but it was scary
Yeah.
to the
While we're
point
on
where,
the
yeah.
mhm.
No, go
no,
ahead.
we're no, we're on the bullpen topic. I was just gonna ask you, what's your philosophy on? It sounds like Rob Thompson's gonna have a closer by committee again. Um, what's your philosophy on that?
I like having one guy that you're going to go to at certain, like in the ninth inning, and he's going to be there when you need him. Um, but I do understand that, like, if you're coming up to the ninth inning and like let's just say the way I think about it, if you throw a perfect game, the ninth inning is going to be 7, 8, 9. So if you're coming up in the sixth inning and the sixth inning is 1, 2, 3, and so or sorry, seventh inning, you're coming up in the seventh inning, and the seventh inning is your 1, 2, 3 batters. Eighth inning is going to be 4, 5, 6, and the ninth is 7, 8, 9. Well, I wouldn't want, like, I understand the fact that I don't want to just save my closer to face 7, 8, 9 when, like, granted, at that point, if you have the lead going into the ninth, then that guy's going to come in and 7, 8, 9 is going to be nothing for him to take care of. So you'll get the job done there. But I understand Topper's perspective, where it's like, look, if we're in the 7th inning and 1-2-3's coming up, or 2-3-4, or their best hitters are coming up in the 7th inning, where we get them now, we don't have to face them in the 9th inning. I understand, but like just having a guy though like Alvarado that can come in the 9th inning then and just be lights out. I like having that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. If it was up to me, I would just name Alvarado the closer. And
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
that's my philosophy. I think, I mean, like Strahm, I feel like Strahm can be our left-handed setup man. I mean, and Hoffman is our right-handed, 7th, 8th inning guy. Kind of flip-flop them, and then just
Hmm.
keep Alvarado in the back end. But I get it. I mean, I think in the regular season too, like, I mean, it's more the matchup thing is more important in the playoffs, and by then it's
Hmm.
like, all hands on deck,
Yeah.
whatever goes on. So I don't know. It is what it is. As long as they're executing, I don't care if they have a
Hmm.
title or whatnot. So,
Yeah.
and I feel like, I mean, last year I feel like everyone who came in the closer role did their job. So I don't remember
Yep.
too many like egregious blown saves like in years past. So
No, just Kimbrel every so often. But Kimbrel was more of an issue when he didn't come in the 9th inning. So
yeah, yeah, he just seemed like cooked by the end of the year too. I'm not a Craig Kimbrell hater. He really like came through a lot last year with like Sir Anthony being down and all that. But
yep.
anyways, not on the team anymore. So,
Yeah. We
um,
don't have to talk about him. Orioles can do it.
Taiwan Walker, he's starting the season on the IR. Turnbull looks like he'll be the 5th starter. I mean, he has a lot of high upside, but hasn't really been able to put anything together in the big leagues. I remember he was a pretty touted out prospect a few years ago, but I think his velocity kind of dipped, and obviously Detroit gave up on him. But looked pretty good in the spring. I mean, I was looking at it. It looks like he has some injury issues and up and down in the minors, but his only full season as a starter was 2019. He had 30 stars, a 3-17 record, which I know record doesn't really matter, but that's still kind of staggering. But
Yeah.
4.6 ERA, so that's not horrible. But I mean, yeah, what are your thoughts on Walker being unreliable and injured and wasn't of course that he wasn't ready and all that. What's your kind of
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
So if I'm being completely honest, I'm kind of fed up with Taiwan Walker at this point. Um, you can't. Spring training's a time to get ready, but you have to come ready to get ready. um, it sounds counterintuitive, but you have to come prepared. You can't come having just sat around and played golf all off season. You have to have done work in the off season. I don't know what he did, but it sure looks like he did nothing. So I'm kind of fed up with him, but starting the season on the IR probably the best thing that could happen right now. Um, Spencer Turnbull being the 5th starter, not a huge deal. I did hear someone mention on WIP at one point, it was just a good comment, that this early on in the season, you really only need 4 starters because there's so many breaks thrown in there all the time that your first guy is normally ready by the time your 4th guy's pitching. So you really only need 1 through 4. And so Turnbull is just going to be there probably to do spot starts every now and then and be a long guy out of the bullpen probably for the first month or so. Um, so I'm not too unhappy. I know he has been up and down in Detroit. Um, and Detroit's a relatively pitcher friendly ballpark, if I'm not mistaken. But a 4.6 ERA from a 5th starter isn't the worst thing in the world. And a 3-17 record, that does look bad, but you have to remember that the Tigers are the Tigers. So he probably had no run support. Um, I mean, that doesn't stop him from giving up runs, but that doesn't help the record there.
Yeah, I mean, Win losses don't really matter. I'm kind of on that boat, but you still don't really see one that bad. It was kind of
Yeah.
staggering. But yeah, that's a good point though. I didn't even really think of that. Cause cause wasn't Ranger hurt last year to begin the season? So Strahm was kind of making spot starts when they needed them, and they were kind of piecing it together with a 4-man rotation.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah. Suarez
um,
Suarez got hurt at the WBC.
yeah.
And so
Okay,
I think he missed almost the first half of the season trying to
yeah,
get back from that. So we were running with uh, Wheeler, Nola, Walker. I think Sanchez was here at that point, and Strahm. Strahm held his own, so he did a good job.
yeah.
And I'm not saying we even need a Strahm level of performance out of Turnbull. We just need him to not be hot garbage.
Exactly,
Keep us in it.
exactly. And our bullpen's deep now, so even if they need to throw some bullpen games in there, um, not gonna complain about that. So, but yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
but one thing we skipped over with bullpen, Kerkering starting on the IR also, or at least the IL, but um, can't just keep waiting to the deadline. But you also want to make sure that what you have either is or isn't working before you
yeah.
decide to move on.
Hmm.
But yeah, on that note, um, I want to shift this a little bit. Let's talk about spring
Mhm.
games. As they finished up, as there's not much to talk about it. Um, and then after we talk about spring games, we can discuss the opening day roster.
Yeah, sounds great.
So, I missed watching the last few spring games, so you have notes here, so I'll let you talk about it.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, the only spring games I watched this year were when I was down there, just because work. And plus, I mean, spring training every year, like it's, I don't know. I mean, it feels like Schwarber always stinks, Harper always stinks, like all the, like, but then they just are themselves in the season. So, um, it is what it is. But yeah, they fell 6-3 to the Rays. I did see that JT home run was freaking crushed. It looks like his leg kick. He doesn't have as much of a severe leg kick anymore, and it just seems like he's quicker to the ball and just attacks better. So I'm really excited to see JT this year. I think he would have that high leg kick and then kind of pull out
Yeah.
of his swing a lot last year, which was frustrating. But when he really had a balanced stance and drove through the ball is when he was crushing it. So um, I'm super excited to see him. You know how he does this year. I think he had a down year last year, and he can definitely bounce back. But yeah, 6-3 to the Rays. Phillies ended the spring training at 9-15. Drew, are you concerned about that at all?
Um, it's spring training, but I also don't want to, it's always concerning when we've been getting off to slow starts. Now, last year that didn't cost us the division because the Braves absolutely just like blew away everybody.
Hmm.
But if we want to compete for the division, knowing that the Braves are going to blow away everybody, you can't get off to a slow start.
Hmm.
And I know all the talk this spring has been, yeah, the past few years we've kind of just been content getting to the playoffs, but now we want to win the division. And you can't get off to a slow start if you want to win the division, especially when your first three games are against the Braves. So you kind of it's it's not like other years where you're playing the Rangers or other American League teams down like to start the season where yeah the games matter, but they're not gonna directly affect the division race. You get off to a bang this year, and you if you can sweep the Braves here, that sets the tone if the division is close for the rest of the season.
Hmm.
So I it's a it's fun having a really important series right off the bat. It's also nerve wracking knowing how slow the Phillies have gotten off to starts the past couple years. So eh,
Yeah,
I
so I
don't
mean,
want
yeah,
to. Yeah.
no, let's jump into that because obviously, um, you know, we have our predictions for the year. I mean, speaking of slow starts, so um, I pulled up the Phillies and the Braves records month by month last year.
Oh, I
So
didn't think about that.
yeah, so the Phillies were 25-27 at the end of May.
Mm-hmm.
So they were 2 games under 500. The Braves were 33-23. So at the end of May, the Phillies were 12 games back. Like that's, I mean, even though it's early, like that's a, a really tough ladder to climb. And I think they came as close as 6 games back, if I recall, or five. I didn't write that down, but
They
that's just off
got
the top of my head.
all things
But
considered, they got relatively close.
they did. But like this team is too good to ever be below 500, in my opinion, unless it's like
That it
first
is.
5 games. But like I mean, if they can even just play 3 games over 500, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, like at the end of May, I mean the division. I mean, we can 100% win the division. Now the Braves last year, this is insane. So in June, the the Braves record in June was 21-4.
Oh yeah, they
So
absolutely
that's
went off.
but I mean in the same light, the Phillies were 18-8, which is really good.
Yeah.
So like I mean, yeah, like, I mean, what are the chances of another 21-4 month? Um, they also were 21-8 in August. The Braves were, so
Yeah.
they were pretty dang good. But like, I mean, the Phillies. I mean, if they can just come out to a mediocre start, like 3 or 4 games over 500. I mean, it'll at least make for a more competitive division race,
Mm-hmm.
which I think in turn will make them win more games. This felt like, and the John Boy prediction said this, but it was 100% true. Was just seemed like the Phillies were so far out of it that they were like, let's just get the wild card and win 90 games and relax, because we're not
Mm-hmm.
going to catch them at this point. That I think that all starts in April and May, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, I was watching John Boy's video today on because they did their TPP on the Braves today, and that's a lie. I got 5 minutes into it and I switched to a different video. I knew what they were gonna say pretty much, but I listened to the main things, and the Braves did lose a lot of good people, but they also got like Jared Kelnick for free,
hmm
and they got I can't remember who else they got, but they're just
Chris Sale.
yes, they practically got him for free too. They're just paying him,
hmm
and he looked really good in spring training. Now, like we keep saying, spring training, but that's scary. If you can get Strider doing what he does, and then you have Chris Sale back in form, that would be no bueno. So, and it's not good if I'm talking in Spanish. So, um, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are saying this is like the year for the Phillies to win the division. I mean, honestly, like I just hope for a more competitive race
yeah,
than last year because it seemed like you wanted to get into that, but you just knew it was at a grasp. But I mean, I don't know, man. Morton's getting older. Oh, he's old. Not getting old. He's old.
he's like 30. I want to say 4, but I feel like that's even too young.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Sale's getting up there. I mean, the
Oh,
lineup.
good lordy. Charlie Morton is
What
40.
is he really? My guess
Yeah.
is gonna be 38, but yeah, he's old. He's old,
Anyway.
so yeah. I mean, who knows how reliable that rotation is? Obviously Strider's, is a stud, but
Yeah.
um, I don't know. I think it's very much in grasp. I don't think it's gonna be the same as last year at all. I think it's gonna be a tighter race.
Yeah.
But the Phillies can get off to a hot start. I am concerned about that because of the flu and because of their track record. So that's gonna be like a huge area of focus for me this year.
Yeah, that's fair. So let's get into the opening day roster then. Let me bring it. If you have it up, you can get a head start on me.
Yeah, I think I liked a tweet earlier with the official final roster. Yeah, so it looks like pitchers, starters, Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, Ranger Suarez, Christopher Sanchez, Spencer Turnbull. That's the rotation. Bullpen, Alvarado, Hoffman, Dominguez, Soto, Strahm, Marte, Ortiz, Brogdon.
Oh,
So,
Ortiz. I liked
yeah,
Ortiz last year.
yeah, I liked him too. I think he'll be sent down probably once
Kerkering's
Kerkering is
back. Oh yeah,
back.
no doubt.
Either him or Brogdon, I guess. I think Junior Marte. I mean, I believed him a lot last year, and he was not good at all. But
I
hey,
yeah.
let's
I
run
don't
it
want to
back.
say he wasn't good at all, but um,
He showed flashes later
he
in the
showed
year.
promise.
Yeah.
Considering so like I was annoyed when we traded for him. I liked
hmm
him, but the guy we traded for him, I really liked, and he was a
Yeah.
left-handed bullpen guy. And I'm blanking on his name right now. Um,
No, I remember. Yeah. Well, I'm trying to look that up.
Eric Miller.
Mm.
I don't know how he's done, but I also have liked how Marte's done. So
hmm Yeah. I
he
mean,
pitched well in spring training this year. 4 and 2/3 innings with a 1.93 ERA. Marte did better. Let the record
he was
show.
he was he was in the big league last year?
Who? Miller?
Eric Miller?
No, it was his spring training numbers from this year.
Okay.
I'm trying to find. No, he was just in the minors last year.
I think he was
Oh
2-1
so
with a 2.77 ERA.
at AAA, yeah,
Hmm.
which is pretty good. He was always really good for us. So I guess with Strahm, they probably and he was gonna. It was a whole. He was gonna be subject to the Rule 5 draft because he wasn't on the 40 man. I don't know why you wouldn't have just added him to the 40 man.
Mm-hmm.
But you get Marte for him, which isn't bad. I was just annoyed because we don't have many homegrown players, and
Yeah.
that would have been really cool to have one of them come up and another one of them to come up and do well because Kerkering looks like he's about to break out too.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I get annoyed when we trade the prospects and they go away and do well because I I'm a big rebuild guy. I don't always want to go into a rebuild. I like competing, but I also
Mhm.
like prospects and I like building from the ground up because that's how you sustain success versus doing what trying to think of a good example, but like some teams where like almost what
Padres.
we're doing. Almost well, yeah, actually Padres are a good example where you just sign a lot of people
The
and then
Angels.
you get stuck and you have to take a loan out to pay your roster.
Yeah. That was good. All right, we're digressing. But
Are
yeah,
we
no, that's a good. I mean, no, that is a good point though. I mean, we'll get into it with our prospect talk, but
yeah, we can get into
I
it
think
then.
that we're well on our way of like being like the Dodgers, where you're just like you got your superstars that you sign, but then you just
Uh-huh.
got like replenishment,
Yeah.
which is super exciting because we've lacked that for
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah,
um,
and I feel like a lot of it wasn't that they were neglecting the farm
mhm,
system, it's just that they couldn't hit on a pick if they had
yeah.
thrown a dart at like a wall. Like if all you had to do was hit a wall, they could not have hit the wall with the dart. And I
Yeah.
mean, it's just a shame because they had so many top 15 picks that just like Cornelius Randolph, Mickey Moniak's looking relatively promising with the Angels, and then you had oh, Dom Brown, other guys kind of like that. Dom Brown was
Wait,
kind of at the end to be at the end of the Don Brown was that weird middle grounds where we were
mhm,
finishing competing and then entering no man's land. So I don't know, maybe we don't include Don Brown in that, but
yeah.
you got guys like Cornelius Randolph and a whole slew of
Adam
other.
Hazley,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
remember him?
Yeah, I was hyped for him. Now I'm not hyped for him, but um,
Well, it's like we hit on Nola, which is a huge hit,
yeah,
and then we do
you
that the next like 5 years. Like I don't know
know what MLB The Show taught me the other day. Nola
what.
was drafted 1 year in the minors and then he was up. Because
Mhm.
like I know he's in college, I just didn't realize like he was up that quickly.
Yeah. No, I remember when they drafted him, they sent him right to Double A, and
Yeah,
I was like what 14 at the time, and my parents we went out
yeah.
to see him in Reading, and I have a hat signed by him and Jesse Biddle because
No
I thought
way.
Jesse Biddle was gonna be like a stud. Which is so funny too that he like Harper hit his first home run on the Phillies against Biddle.
Yeah.
I just love that. Sorry,
Well, so
yeah, yeah, sorry.
what I think I maybe I should backtrack a little bit when I said we weren't building from within because I think we're the right combination of building from within and bringing in external because you
Hmm.
got Bohm, Stott. I'm going to include Marsh because we traded Ohape for him, who is looking really good anyway. So you got the three of them who are kind of homegrown, and they're going to be the core as soon as Schwarber, Casty's contracts end up and such, and whatever happens with Rojas. And yeah, I mean, backtrack a little bit, I guess, but you still have to keep. You can't get lax. I think that's really what happened. Is we were doing our whole winning playoff games, going to the World Series for those 5-year stretch, and we were so concerned with sustaining that success with those players that I feel like they probably got a little too lax on the whole drafting and signing. Now, I was still too young to really care about all the nuances of baseball at that point, but I'm kind of curious how many of those players that we signed in off seasons were like qualified players and we lost draft picks because of that. And maybe that led to, that'd be something to look into, but
yeah. I mean, I think they're finally on the right path of figuring that out, though, with Preston Mattingly and just having like a good infrastructure. But I think Brian Barber is like their drafting guy, and I mean the last couple of years the picks. I mean, Mick Abel, looks better than and Painter are higher ranked prospects than like other first round picks back in like the Demoniacs and the Randolphs and them. So I think we're in a good spot.
yeah.
So
So because I was curious, I looked up just a list of Phillies first round picks. And so the only guy on this list that I recognize up until, well, you said Jesse Biddle, but he's 2010. But from like, I'm going to open the contention window per se in 2006, just because that's about when Ryan Howard came up, more or less. And so I'm going to say 2006 up until we drafted J.P. Crawford in 2013. The only guy on that list that I recognize is Travis d'Arnaud in 2007.
Interesting.
Don't know any of the other guys. You got like Kyle Drabick, Adrian Cardenas, Joe Savory, Travis d'Arnaud, Anthony Hewitt, Zach Collier, Jesse Biddle, Larry Green, Shane Watson, Mitch Bueller or something, and then you got Crawford. Yeah, I don't know. That's a complete sidetrack, but we can get back on topic. So yeah, Monday spring training lineup. Pretty sure that's gonna be relatively what gets rung out there on first day.
Yeah,
Could be
yeah,
wrong.
it was Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Realmuto, Bohm, Stott, Casty, Merrifield, Marsh. So, not to toot my own horn, but that might have been the exact prediction lineup I gave last week. I don't remember.
I wouldn't be surprised.
No, I think I had Stott in the 5. Well, I don't know, but I like it. I mean, I think I want to see Merrifield play, 4 out of 5 games in the week, but not taking away from Stott or Marsh. So I think rolling with that lineup is ideal in my eyes.
Good golly. I just saw Merrifield's spring training stats. He's batting .405 with a 1.143 OPS.
Yeah. Yeah, we can dive into that a little bit. He had 6 doubles too, which is pretty dang good. 732 slugging. Pretty good.
Yeah.
So hey, if Merrifield's locked in, like get him at bats early, get some wins.
Yeah, huh? Sorry, I'm kind of just shocked with those numbers. Okay, that's besides the point.
Yeah.
Maybe that is the point. I don't know. But yeah, I can see that being. Holy crap! Sorry, I was I was on one of the websites and I went to close it and an ad started playing and it was really loud. I like jumped out of my seat. Yeah, I can see that being the opening day lineup there. The only thing I could see, no, never mind. Scratch that. I was gonna say I could see Rojas starting in center, but they're facing Strider, so they'll probably want Merrifield batting over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So never mind. Yeah, it's probably pretty close to what the lineup will be. Bottom might change here and there, but yeah.
I like it. I like it.
Now, fan favorite segment here, or at least our favorite segment, Phillies by numbers. So I dug into it. I prepared a lot better this time. In my mind, I looked like a deer in headlights last time. So I'm gonna change that. Although I want to pull up my baseball reference page. Come on, there it is, so I can see everybody with the number. Dang, it's a lot of different buttons I have to click. All right, now I want this. Go away so you're not loud. Okay. All right, so the order I came up with was because so we're doing number 2. Let's get that out of the way. We're doing number 2.
Episode 2, number 2.
Yep. There's 26 players that have worn this number. You want to go over what you considered your honorable mentions?
Yeah, so I mean, going through the number, none really stood out as like, you know,
Clear cut number 1.
yeah, like a clear cut number 1, Phillies legend. I laid out some honorable mentions. So AJ Hinch wore that number in 2004. Obviously, Astros manager for the World Series that they cheated. Now he's managing Detroit, right? Detroit, yeah. So that's kind of interesting. I think he was a catcher when he played.
Yep.
I didn't even know he was on the Phillies, so that was kind of cool.
He was like in his 30s at that point.
Yeah, yeah. The last player to wear it was Josh Harrison last year. Obviously, did not finish the year with the team. But yeah, he wore it last year, and then Cody Clemens this year. He was number 2 on the 40-man, so he didn't make the club for opening day, but I'm sure we'll see some Cody Clemens at some point this year. He switched from 23 to 2, and Hoffman is going to be 23 this year. So that's kind of cool. Get him out of, he was what, 60 something? I don't know. Ugly number. So good that he has a cool number now. But Drew, who was our number 2 of in Phillies history?
Now, do we want to go from the bottom up, or do we want to start at number 1 and just go with it?
We'll go from the bottom. We'll
go from the bottom.
We'll build the suspense. Yeah.
Okay. So I kind of maybe my number. I have 4 guys listed, or I have 5 guys listed, 4 spots. You'll see what I mean when I get to it. So number 4 is probably just more of an honorable mention because I wanted to talk about him because I didn't want to not talk about him. So Rico Brogna. I don't know if I've never heard of that name before until I started looking at this list.
I think it's Bronya.
Bronya? Okay. Yeah. So
I only know that because I was watching. I watched like every Phillies video yearbook from like 1998 up to now during the playoff run.
I should have done that. So he was a first baseman. He played for us from 97 to 2000, and then he got traded to Boston. I don't know what he got traded for. I didn't look at that. But so he wore the number 2 on.
He was like an all-time Harry Kalas call guy. Like Rico, bro. Yeah. Look that up. It's pretty cool. So
those years, we don't really talk about those years in Phillies baseball because nothing much happened. Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, and Ryan Howard are the fruits of that nothing happening. as we were able to get all of them because we were bad. So from 97 to 2000, Bronya had arguably his three best MLB seasons. Actually, it's not even arguably. He had his three best MLB seasons, where in 97 he hit 252 with a 293 on base and a 433 slug with 20 home runs and 81 RBIs. And then his two best seasons overall and on the Phillies were in 98 and 99. In 98, he hit 265 with a 319 on base and a 446 slug with 20 home runs and 104 RBIs, and followed that year up by going 278 with a 336 on base, a 454 slugging with 24 home runs and 102 RBIs. And wow, that's a solid player right there.
Yeah, we go Bronya.
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure I didn't leave him off the list. It was during a time where not much happened, but definitely deserved to be mentioned at least. So my number 3 was Ben Revere, and I feel like you can't talk about, at least us growing up with Ben Revere, you can't talk about number 2 in Philly without talking about Ben Revere. So he was acquired. I didn't realize this was the actual trade. So he was acquired for Vance Worley and Trevor May, who Trevor May has made a name for himself. Vance Worley kind of sputtered out. Man, Vance Worley's two-seam fastball was something. But
Yeah, I remember Worley was traded for him, but I did not know Trevor May was in the deal. It's kind of funny. I didn't even know he was in the Phillies system.
I knew he was with the Phillies at one point. I knew we traded him away. I just didn't realize it was this trade. But so Revere's first season with the Phillies was 2013. He hit 305, and arguably he had his best seasons also in Philly. He hit 305, 338 on base, and a 352 slug. Now his slug's never gonna be that impressive because he didn't slug. So he had no home runs. He had 17 RBIs and 22 stolen bases. I mean, that's
Yeah,
nothing. That's nothing much, but the man was a defensive. Like he was all over the place, and he just consistently hit. So
yeah, he was like prototypical slap hitter. I remember he
mhm.
had like no arm in center field. I remember that, but he could track balls down.
Yeah,
I remember my mom took me to Schuylkill Valley Sport. This is like way up, but like in like 2013, 14, and I got myself a Ben Revere Phillies jersey and a Bryce Harper Nationals jersey. So it's kind of funny how that all works out. But
yeah. Hey, now you can wear both of them proudly.
yeah, exactly. I still have
Yeah,
that Revere one. It's kind of funny looking at it. Yeah, he was a fun. I remember like I think Mark DeRose on MLB Network was like, Phillies fans, you guys are gonna love this guy. And it's like him tumbling into third base on the Twins on like a triple, and I'm like, yo, this guy is gonna be sick. Like I think he's
yeah.
like 24 when they got him, 25. I was like,
Uh
this
huh.
guy's gonna be awesome. And I mean, he was alright, but nothing
Yeah.
crazy.
Uh huh. And so 2014, pretty much same average, pretty much everything the same. He hit 2 home runs this year though. He had more RBIs. He played twice. Or he played 60 more games. So I wonder if he got hurt the first. I think he actually did get hurt the first year we got him. But he had 184 hits. That is a lot of hits. Um, and then following year, identical numbers, identical home runs. He like doubled his RBIs though. And he had 181 hits. So solid player. Now, my number 2. This is where it gets a little finicky. So I have 2 players listed for number 2, but it's because you can't talk about one without talking about the other. So I have Gene Segura and J.P. Crawford listed as number 2. Um, like I said, you can't talk about Segura without talking about Crawford, and you can't talk about Crawford without inevitably eventually talking about Segura. So they're kind of linked together. And so with one being traded for the other, the number 2 got worn by someone in that trade the whole time. So like it went from Crawford to Segura, so it's almost looped together in one. But Crawford, I wanted to talk about because he was kind of the hope for the franchise for a while because we were garbage. Um, and he was kind of the hope. Um, he just never really put it together while he was here. He's had a couple decent years in Seattle since. Good on base, getting a lot of walks, playing solid defense. Um, Last year he was actually 16th in AL MVP voting, which shocked me
He
when
won
I
a
saw that.
he won a Gold Glove in 2020.
Yes.
I remember
So,
that year. That year was the COVID year, obviously. And
mhm,
do you know who won the second base Gold Glove for the AL that year?
no idea.
Cesar Hernandez.
Do you
So the
really?
two so the two AL Gold Glove winners were J.P. Crawford and Cesar Hernandez. It cracked me up.
Phillies
I was
represent.
I was like, and then while like the Phillies like blow like a playoff spot
Yeah.
miserably, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me! Like this is not, that was back in the dark ages.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. But Crawford, there's not much to talk about with him while he was here in Philly. Um, and Segura, Segura was just solid. He did frustrate us all. He had his moments. But that's weird. You open up his baseball reference page and he's there in a Guardians baseball hat.
Segura?
Yeah, I don't know why, because he's not on the Guardians.
Wait, really?
Unless he was
Did he
there in
ever play?
spring training.
He might have been. I feel like he'd be a guy the Guardians would pick up. I feel like they like
I don't know.
slapping his
Anyway,
reputation.
well, you looked that up. Segura was here from 19 to 22. Um, Unfortunately, the 3 years before we got him, he was an above 300 hitter, and then as soon as we got him, he started hitting like 280, which and he stopped being able to steal bases. So that's a real shame because that's kind of who we thought we were trading for, and that's not necessarily who we got. But we got an amazing clubhouse guy, and ended up being like a really good second baseman. I think he was really underrated defensively at second base. Um, he ended up being a really big key and a cog to this machine that we're kind of building. Um, so no regrets trading for him. It's just a shame we didn't get what we thought we were getting. But that's baseball. You don't always get what you think you're getting. So,
Yeah, I was always a big Segura guy.
mhm.
He's one of those players like that I even liked a lot in Milwaukee, and like when he got traded to Arizona that one year, um, I always just liked him and thought he liked his game. Um, so it was cool that we had him, kind of on the decline of his career, but
Mhm.
I'll never forget that 2022 run. All those guys are kind of etched in my heart,
Yeah.
special place
Uh-huh.
in my heart. So
Yeah.
I like I have no complaints about Gene. I think he was great.
Yeah. I love Gene. He's always gonna have that spot where for everyone. So
Hmm.
now number one. Ironically, after by the way we're laughing, I think you can kind of figure out where this is going. So, um, number one is Granny Hamner. Um, so there's a very unfortunate turn to this. So I was looking, I was looking at his name, and I realized I said his name wrong last week. It's not Hammer, it's Hamner with an N instead of an M. I don't know if I'm partially dyslexic or if my vision, like, I just couldn't read it or so. I don't know. So we went the whole episode last time talking about Granny Hammer and making a joke. And, you know, I looked more into him and now I kind of feel bad because he was actually like a fan favorite supposedly for a while growing up. and he was a I don't want to say a big piece to the Whiz Kids, but he was there, and he was a constant for a long time. So we can get into it. So he was with Philly from the time he was 17. I was reading this article. Um, they actually Philly scouts went to scout his older brother, and found him and ended up signing both of them. But he didn't really make an impact on the Phillies per se until he was 21. Excuse me. Is when he started getting everyday playtime, and from that point on, he was just a really solid player. Where the worst he did was bat 255. Um, in 90, in not 90, in 56 and 57, he batted right around 225. Um, and then the following year he hit 301, and then he got traded to Cleveland. Um, but he was a solid all-around player. He was a three-time All-Star, and he was always in the MVP general mix. I don't. He never. Closest he ever got was in 1950. He came sixth, in NL MVP voting, but he was pretty much top 30 5 times, and he was 31st once. So pretty much top 30 in MVP voting 6 different times. So I kind of felt bad, but he does have an unfortunate name. Uh, but his full name, oh, where is it? I just had it. Now it went away. His first name actually isn't Granny. His first name is something else. Let me see if I can find it. There it is. Granville Wilbur Hamner. But yeah, so after everything last week, Granny Hammer taking
Yeah,
down the
honestly,
yeah.
yeah, seeing your notes that his name's actually Hamner was kind of like the worst uh moment of my week because that was fun to say.
I know. I
and
know.
you're
I
just like
was
pulling
so
it up and you're like,
disappointed.
we had a guy named Granny Hammer.
uh,
But yeah, no, I mean, great to learn about those, older teams from before we were around.
yeah.
Has a lot of special place in older Phillies fans' hearts.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's our Phillies by the Numbers segment. I'm excited to get into 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Some good guys coming up. So, but now on to our season predictions, Drew.
Yeah.
So DraftKings has the Phillies projected. I'm sorry, FanDuel has the over/under at 89.5 wins.
Okay.
Now I saw Baseball Prospectus. I forget who tweeted it, but like a pretty big baseball Twitter page has the Phillies projected 85 wins.
Mm.
So I usually don't care that much about the lines and all that, or like the projections, but like 85 is kind of disrespectful. It seems a lot better than that.
Yeah, especially after we had 90 wins last year, you can't. I feel like you can't say we got worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
100%. So that made me really mad. Not gonna lie, but
yeah.
I mean, 89.5 wins. I'm absolutely hammering that over. I'm
Yep.
Grady hammering that over, or
Yes,
Granny
sir.
hammering that over. I mean, I get it. Like, you know, last year was the first year they barely cracked 90, and it's pretty much the same team. So I'm not really mad about that.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think that there's a lot of players who are going to take another leap, a lot of upside here. A full season of Harper, a full season of Suarez. Wheeler didn't have a great year last year. I have big expectations for him this year. Nola didn't have a great year last year. I'm having big expectations for him this year. I think this team truly can win 100 games if they really start off strong and put it all together.
Yeah. Yeah, I really think you can't count them out to, if they get off to the key is getting off to a strong start.
Hmm.
You don't have to go like 21-4, but you also can't be under 500 at the end of May
Hmm.
like we have been the
Yeah.
past few years. So you
Hmm.
have to get off to that strong start, and you have to be able to be consistent. And
Hmm.
so the key is like Taiwan Walker coming back and being hopefully better than he was last year, but I don't know how much you can hope for that. Um, and Kerkering coming back and being solid. So
Hmm.
it's going to rely on that, and it's going to rely on guys staying healthy. No one having a slow start player wise. So
Hmm.
there's a few things that'll hinge on, but I feel like you definitely can't say that they're going to be worse than last year. My prediction has always sat right around 95 to 98 games.
Hmm.
I'm a little hesitant to go up to 100. I really think 95, I almost want to say 95 is almost the floor
Hmm.
that I believe in. Um, and I feel like 100 would be the ceiling. Um, but you never know if Nola turns the clock back to, or let's put it this way: if Nola pitches this year like he pitched in the playoffs, we'll be golden between him and
Hmm.
I was about to say Walker, him and Wheeler, we'll be set.
Hmm.
Um, but
No, 100%. I mean, they could win 100 games. My realistic kind of outlook was 93 to 97, which is kind of a wide range, or
mhm,
obviously to 96. But yeah, I mean, like you just said, I mean, Wheeler put it all together. A big prediction I have for this year is I think this is the year that Wheeler's gonna break out and win the Cy Young. Um,
did if MLB the show's any indication, it's the year.
yeah,
Side note, I had
in my MLB The Show franchise, I was just like simulating, and Colby Allard had like a 2.09 ERA through like
really
August. So I don't,
did I
I
was
don't know.
there's this guy, this YouTuber Ant Ortiz that I watch who does the show rebuilds and stuff like that, and there's this one simulation he had where Wheeler and Strider were 1 and 2, or Strider was 1, Wheeler was 2 for NL Cy Young. They both had about the same win loss record. Strider had a 3.19 ERA with like 10, 15, maybe 20 more strikeouts than Wheeler. Wheeler had a 2.23 ERA, and I'm like, how does he not win? I don't know. MLB the show's
Yeah.
weird, but I'm like, there's no
Well,
way.
I mean, in real life, he should have won that 2021 Cy Young.
Hmm.
It's frustrating. I felt they just didn't want to give like a Phillies player the MVP and Cy Young, so the voters were kind of like, we'll give Harper the MVP and sorry, Zach.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's not. Maybe that's they don't think like that, but it
Hmm.
wouldn't make sense in my opinion. But I think this year he does it. He got the splitter. He'll be healthy, hopefully.
I forgot about the splitter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he got the splitter. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, well, I saw a pitching ninja. I think post like it looks pretty good. So, yeah, I think Wheeler's like, all right, he got his like next contract. Like they kind of made up for him being so underpaid
Yeah.
before. He's like, all right, like let's he wants to freaking they all want a ring. Like I think they all just want to win so bad. I think they have that hunger.
Yeah.
Um, that's why I mean, it feels like our year. It feels like our
Hmm.
year. I don't know. I mean, I said that last year, like when they were like blowing through the playoffs and we had to face the Diamondbacks. I was like, this is our year. Obviously it wasn't, but I don't know, man. It just feels like they just have that hunger, that bitterness. Like they're not a Cinderella team anymore. Like they are postseason performers and studs. And
Yeah.
like it would just, I mean, I don't want to be pessimistic, so I'm not going to say what I was just about to say. But I think it's the year. I really do.
Yeah. So the season opens up with betting odds here for National League Cy Young. Strider at plus 450, Wheeler at plus 800, Logan Webb at 950 plus 950. I think this is going to change really quickly because next is Yamamoto at plus 1,000, which after how he started the season, that won't be there for very long. Zach Gallen, Max Fried, Tyler Glasnow, Freddie Brin, so on and so forth. So you got Strider and Wheeler considered right there your 1-2 for NL Cy Young favorites. And by golly, if that's the case, I should take off of work. And then your MVP odds, while we're talking about it, I was really trying to find, and I wanted to go through it, but I couldn't find it, like home runs, over under home runs for each player on the Phillies. And I was just having the worst of luck trying to find it. And I wanted to talk about that, like home runs, RBIs, like stolen bases for a few players, but we don't need to go into all that because I can't find it unless you find it somewhere. But I'm going to go over the first. I'm going to go up to Trey Turner's odds in MVP because he's actually up there, surprisingly. He's above Austin Riley, which really shocks me. But you got Acuna at plus 500 to repeat, Betts at 650, Ohtani at 750, which is a real shame that now Bryce Harper has to deal with trying to beat out the inevitable every year MVP winner in Shohei Ohtani just because he puts up a 3-something ERA and hits 30 plus home runs.
Dang, I didn't even think of that.
Neither did I, and now I'm kind of butthurt again. Yeah. Tatis Jr. at plus 1,000, Harper's at plus 1,000, Freeman's at 12,000, Olsen 15. Sorry, not 12,000. That's a really bad line. I would bet on that. Freeman's at 1,200, Olsen's at 1,500, Corbin Carroll 1,800, Machado 2,200, Trey Turner also at 2,200. And I'll stop there. But then Austin Riley's at 25.
What's Johan Rojas's odds?
This list doesn't go that long.
I'm just kidding.
Hey, it goes down to Keibert Ruiz has a plus 20,000.
Wow.
Yeah, let's see. What other Phillies are on this list? Because if Keibert Ruiz is on there, there's got to be others. Bryson Stott plus 16,000. JT plus 12,000. Schwarber plus 10,000. Reeser's on there at 8,000. What a dude.
Wow. But yeah, I feel like Harper has a shot too. I mean,
yeah. If he plays how he did at the end of the year, so
yeah.
I'm really excited for Harper. I think obviously these MVP odds aren't discrediting him like I feel like the rest of the league's kind of overlooking him as last year and the year before. Now the year before he still had a really good year, but he was dealing with that elbow injury the whole time. Last year you get Tommy John surgery. The year following, for at least hitters, because pitchers don't pitch for a whole year. The year following, you get Tommy John surgery for hitters. You could see it in Shohei when he had his first Tommy John surgery. The following year, your power numbers are way down. And Harper still, let's see. I don't want to place a bet. I want his stats from last year. To Baseball Reference, my favorite website. Yeah, he still had 21 home runs last year. And he missed almost 40 games. So now if you essentially say his power's back to what it should be, you're getting into 2021 type of power where he had a 309 batting average, 429 OBP. Jeez, my word. He had a 615 slug, which led all the majors. and he had a 1.044 OPS, which again led all the major leagues. So you could definitely see his power dip the last 2 years as last 2020. I'm going to call last year's 2022, which I should stop. So 2 years ago, 2022, 18 home runs. Last year, 21 home runs. But the power should be back this year. He's going to be scary, especially he should put up more RBIs than he did 2 years ago, where he only put up 84.
So is that your official take then? Bryce Harper's going to win the MVP?
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
So as we kind of wrap up our predictions for the year, do you have any? I have like a hot take for the year. Do you have any hot takes that come to mind? Something spicy.
You say yours. I'm gonna process.
Yeah. So mine is I think Nick Castellanos is going to end the season top 8 for MVP voting in the National League.
Oh.
I know it sounds crazy, but he had a really good year last year. He didn't get a lot of love because he was like when he's in a slump and he's chasing, like he just looks not a good player at all.
Yeah.
So he gets a lot of crap for that.
Mm-hmm.
But last year, 272, 29 home runs, 106 RBIs.
Mm-hmm.
Was the 23rd for MVP. In 2021 he was top 12 for the MVP. I think he's an emotional guy. He likes, he's been here for a while now. Before that he was going from, Chicago, Cincy, Philly. Like he's here. If he can just lay off some pitches and play to his potential, I could see him hitting, 35 home runs with 115 RBIs and batting 280, 290. Getting him up there and, being a top 10 player in the National League. So that's my hot take for the year. I'm expecting a big year out of Castellanos.
Yeah. Well,
training.
I'm looking at his numbers now and comparing him to his last year there in Cincy, and they're actually not too different. The only difference is his average was about 30 ticks down. But his home runs, 5 less. He had 6 more RBIs. He had 1 less double. He had more hits actually. How does that work? Now I'm confused.
Well, he had way more plate appearances.
Yeah, he had about 100 more plate appearances.
Because he
played 20 more games.
Yeah.
But still, like statistically, if you take out average on base and slug and like those things, if you look at the other numbers, you would kind of say he had a better season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
They'd be about the same.
Yeah. And my whole thing is like he needs to walk more.
Definitely.
And strike out less, which might not be able to figure that out in year 11, but I think he can. I think he will. I think he's a stud, and I'm happy he's here. And I don't like all the crap he gets sometimes.
Yeah. No, I think kind of going off of what you just did, I'll go with this. My hot take will be that Aaron Nola finishes top 5 in Cy Young.
Nice.
Yeah. I was contemplating between two. I was going between that and saying that this would be ridiculous, and this might just be me getting excited. But I was gonna say Harper Turner finished 1-2 in MVP voting.
Ooh,
that
would be sick.
I know.
That would be.
That'd be so difficult right now. The way the NL is shaped up with all the players that came over to the NL the last few years, finishing top 5 in MVP voting in the NL should be an award all on its own because you're facing off against Shohei, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Bryce Harper, healthy Bryce Harper,
Acuna.
Yeah, how did I forget him? Fernando Tatis Jr. If he's,
hmm
I'm like, dang. I'm like going through this list in my head. I was like, holy
Yeah.
smokes.
Yeah, the NL
Now,
stack, man.
if Harper could win MVP, maybe a hot, like, I
Corbin
wouldn't even call
Carroll's
it a hot
gonna
take.
be breaking out. So
Yeah, but no, I think Nola finishing top 5 Cy Young would definitely be doable.
I like that.
Because let's
I
see,
think
we're
Noel's a guy. I think Noel's a guy that puts a lot of pressure on himself,
hmm,
and when he does his location, especially on the fastball, is not all there. I think now that he has the contract, I think he's just gonna
yeah,
sit
because
back.
he's finished top 5 in Cy Young voting twice before. Actually, he finished top 5 in Cy Young voting in 2022. He finished 4th. And in
That's good.
2018. Yeah,
I guess that's not much of a hot take. He's already done it what twice, 3 times. Nah, I like
twice.
that though.
I
I
didn't
like
realize
because
he
he
did
had a
it
bad
twice.
year last year. Not a bad year,
Yeah.
but his
He
standards.
had now after finishing top 5 in Cy Young voting 2 years ago, I want to know why people are so down on him last year.
Yeah, I don't like the Nola like slander either.
So
I
now
mean,
I see a trend. I'm looking at this. I see a trend in his baseball reference. So stick with me. 2018, 2.39 ERA, third in Cy Young. 19, 3.87 ERA, no Cy Young votes. 2020, 3.28 ERA, seventh in Cy Young. The following year, 4.63 ERA, no Cy Young votes. The year after that, 3.25 ERA, no Cy Young, or fourth in Cy Young. Last year, 4.46 ERA, no Cy Young votes. So what does that tell me? He's going to have a low ERA and he's going to have top 5 Cy Young votes again this year. It's a pattern, dude.
yeah,
Like he's going every other year. He has a good year, and then I don't know, his arms got to recover or something. I don't know, but
no, the track record's there.
that's kind of cool.
That'd be cool if him and if Bryce and Trey get 1-2 back to back for MVP, and then Nola and Wheeler get 1-2 back to back for Cy Young,
That would be
and then
unheard
like
of.
third is like Acuna and Strider. It's like haha Braves.
Yeah. Oh, and then the funny thing is the Braves would still probably finish with like 104 wins, and we'll
Yeah.
finish at 95 and lose the division.
Hey, we'll be doing the NLDS 3 years in a row.
Yes. All
I'm
right.
like this is all traffic too, but like I'm kind of sick of the Braves in the playoffs. I want to see, or not in the NLDS. I want to see him in the NLCS.
Yeah,
Make it hurt even worse for Braves fans.
definitely.
Really rub it in. But
All right. So let's get to um some prospect talk, shall we? We know the Braves. I wanted to preview the upcoming schedule, but we already talked a lot about the Braves coming up in their series. So I feel like we got that covered pretty well. So let's just move on to some prospect talk, shall we? So this week we are covering Orion Kerkering. Now, the way I want to do the prospect talk is we're going to go in an order where we're giving you information on players that you're actually going to see. So we could talk all to our heart's content on Andrew Painter, but you're not going to see him until next year. I want to make sure we cover players that you might actually see this year, so when they come up, you're prepared for them. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to take MLB's pipeline top 30 for the Phillies, and we're going to sort them by ETA. So Kerkering's ETA is 2024, technically 2023 because he got up there last year. But it's this year. He's going to be in the MLB this year. He's going to start the year in the MLB when he's not hurt or sick. So we're going to start with Kerkering because he's going to be the first guy on this list that you're going to see. So let's get into it. So Kerkering is listed as number 6 in our top 30. Just some general info on him. He's 6'2", 204. He was drafted 152nd overall, which is round 5 back in 2022. So let's get into some of his stats, shall we? So, load. There we go. He came up last year and he pitched 3 innings, gave up a total of 1 run, and had a 3 ERA. Um, yeah. So, and then he pitched in the playoffs. Let me pull up his playoff stats because he pitched still solid in the postseason. He had a 3.38 ERA in 7 games and 5 1/3 innings. He had 2 holds and he only gave up 2 runs. So
Yeah, I love Kerkering. He kind of came out of nowhere too. I mean, he started last year in low A or high A? Low A?
um
Either way, I mean, to go from, you know, single A to the big leagues and then you're pitching in the NLCS,
he's
I mean,
yeah, he started at low A.
wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
He's a stud though. I mean, slider's like one of the best I've seen.
Yeah.
Fastball, fastball's good.
Mm-hmm.
Would be nice to see him kind of develop third pitch. I feel like fastball slider at the big league level, unless it's like really, really dominant, like Mariano Rivera, uh,
Yeah.
you know, you got to kind of have a third pitch there. But even if it's like a harder slider, like a cutter type deal or something. But I think Kerkering's great. I mean, especially like what he's exposed to at such a young age. I mean, it's only going to help him as his career continues to grow, and hopefully he can be that closer guy. I
Yeah.
mean, hopefully this year, if not this year, next year, hopefully. But hopefully he can be that closer because then you can kind of use Alvarado wherever, and I
Mm-hmm.
think he seems like he has the demeanor and the mentality and the makeup to really be a closer too. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was crazy how he came out of nowhere, and then he was the talk of the town for a while, um, and then pitched solid in the playoffs. I thought they'd use him a little bit more, and in some higher leverage spots, but then when they did use him in a higher leverage spot, he didn't do that great.
Yeah.
I wanted to see them kind of use him in higher leverage spots earlier in the playoffs because I kind of figured in a 7 game series eventually. But against the Marlins, it was like the game one against the Marlins. Like it's the Marlins. Like put him in that atmosphere,
Yeah.
up by like 3 or 4. I think they were at the time. Like and then they put Kimbrel and was like put him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, get a seat wet.
So
But
yeah, so I want to kind of get into some of his stats from college. Um, and this will kind of explain why he came out of nowhere. I think it explains it really well. So his freshman year in college at 19, I'm assuming it's his freshman year. There's no stats before that. So unless he redshirt freshman, which he could have done, um, he pitched in 8 games, 12 innings, 7.5 ERA. We can skip that. Uh, um, Next year, he's coming out of the bullpen both these years. So he's coming out of the pen again in 2021. Now 2020 was his first year, so that was also just a weird year in general. So he's coming out of the bullpen in 2021 in his second year. He appeared in 25 games and pitched 50 innings, and he had a 2.88 ERA, which is really good. He had 62 strikeouts to 35 walks, which is good. He had 5 intentional walks. He gave up only 3 home runs, which matched his number from the previous year. And he only had 16 earned runs. So that was pretty good. And his whip was 148, which isn't amazing, but it's not bad either. So um, I think this next tidbit of info will explain a lot. So you would think after having a 2.88 ERA and a bunch of strikeouts, he would be skyrocketing up draft boards, which is, from my understanding, um, for the 2022 draft after his 2021 season, he was shooting up the boards. Um, but he was pitching at South Florida, and in 2022, they wanted to turn him into a starter, and that did not go very well. He had a 5.72 ERA in 10 starts and 19 total games, where he pitched almost 70 innings. So we can just say that experiment did not go too well, though he did drop his walks tremendously to 19 and upped his strikeouts to 91. So I will say that underlying stat there is very impressive. But I think what happened with Kerkering is um, he's not a starter, obviously. He's a very good bullpen guy, and South Florida tried to turn him into a starter, which inevitably hurt his draft stock and helped the Phillies get him in the 5th round, where if they probably would have just let him, or not let him, because he probably wanted to try and be a starter too, because who doesn't want to be a starting pitcher? If he had just pitched out of the bullpen another year, he probably would have been electric, and he probably could have easily been a top 2 round pick. So, who knows? That could have helped the Phillies get him in the 5th round when we probably couldn't have. But moving him back to the bullpen from a starter is probably what caused him to absolutely rocket through the minor leagues last year. That's my take. And I really love Kerkering. So
Yeah, a great find by the scouts and player development to get him where he's at, and hopefully Cotham can keep him going, keep him be a closer here for a long time.
Yeah. So that wraps up the episode for this week, unless you have anything else you wanted to add. You let us talk about baseball, and we can talk. So we're gonna wrap this up here. Thanks for coming back, tuning into episode number 2 here. As always, like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Give it a follow if you're on Spotify. Check the description below. There'll be a link to a Google form where you can leave your comments, questions. I know last episode I said I was going to do that. I do have it already. And then YouTube gave me the runaround with making me verify that I'm not a robot before I put a link in a description. So I'm going to go back, edit last week's episode. It'll be there. It'll be in this one. Link to the Spotify is also going to be in the YouTube video. Link to the YouTube is going to be in the Spotify video. But yeah, thanks for listening. Check those links out. Any help, much appreciated. Share with anyone. If you stumble across this, you're not a real big baseball or Phillies guy, share with everyone that you know that loves the Phillies and baseball. But yeah, thanks for listening to the second episode, and go Phillies.
Go Phils.